My friends, there's one thing that most intermediate and especially self-taught guitar players keep getting wrong, and it's which exercises should you really practice every single day, especially if you don't have that much time to practice guitar. So if you really want to make progress on your guitar journey, but you don't have time to practice 3 hours or even more than 3 hours every single day, you just clicked on the perfect video because I prepared some of the absolute best guitar technique exercises for you today. These exercises are especially great for short practice routines, because they're easy to memorize, they have tons of practice benefits, and they're actually super fun to play as well. Let's check out the first one. Alright, so this one might look a bit more simple compared to some of the crazier stuff we checked out on this channel so far. It's a pattern that I move through the D Dorian scale, so I have the major sixth in there. Maybe you could see it already. When I'm playing this exercise, my biggest focus is keeping my fingers as close to the neck as possible, especially that nasty pinky finger. I've been playing and practicing guitar for around 20 years now. And even I need to constantly work on my pinky control. So by playing this first shape on the A string with my index finger, middle finger and ring finger like this, my pinky is floating in the air like this because it's getting ready to play the characteristic Dorian note on the D string, so B right here on the 9th fret. With this kind of fingering I can easily speed up this really cool Dorian phrase. But when most of my students in my online guitar academy on patreon.com/burned try this lick and this playing approach or fingering approach for the first time, the pinky finger is naturally bending away like this or maybe curling like this. This is what usually happens to me when I'm playing fast legato lines sometimes and I'm not paying attention to my fretting hand that much. So keeping the pinky really close to the neck with this exercise has been extremely helpful for me over the last couple of weeks. I just have to press down with it to play the note that it's supposed to play, and I don't have to move it back and forth like this to the fretboard. If your pinky always has to travel huge distances while you play, you will be punished with string noise like that, because the finger is hitting the strings that it's not supposed to hit, and it's also really hard to build speed if your fingers are moving around way too much. And one more really cool practice benefit with this line is that you're also not allowed to anchor with your index finger, which is the second big bad habit that most self-taught and intermediate guitarists struggle with. So in order to feel all of those individual notes and all of your fingers individually, you want to avoid always pressing down with your strongest finger. A lot of players do that subconsciously because it kind of helps out your other fingers a little bit if this one is always pressing down. But that also means you're never properly developing your weaker fingers because you're never using them in an isolated way. And with this pattern, you have to switch between the A and D string with your index finger constantly. So it simply doesn't work. You can't play this phrase by anchoring with your index finger. You would have to roll it weirdly like this, which feels quite strange for a lick like that. So with this really cool first Dorian scale exercise, you want to go for really small and relaxed movements, as small as humanly possible. Don't be afraid to practice it quite slowly, because for most players it's even harder to control the fingers and to go for extreme economy of motion if the movements are quite slow. And also make sure not to anchor with your index finger. Feel every finger individually. That will be great, of course, for your finger independence. By the way, if you're actually a guitar player and you don't just watch these videos for fun or for your personal entertainment, and you want to take your possibly self-taught kind of weird guitar technique with tons of bad habits, from sounding like this to sounding like this, in just 30 days of practicing, remember that students in my guitar academy on patreon.com/burned have access to my premium guitar technique courses. They come with 30-day practice plans that tell you exactly what to practice, when to practice and how to practice. You only need 30 to 40 minutes of practice because you're working on the best possible exercises, no filler material. So this will make you great at guitar without wasting all your precious practice time on old, outdated and ineffective exercises. I'm very proud to say that that these courses have helped over 40,000 happy guitar students by now with achieving their dream guitar technique. So this is your calling. Let's also take your guitar technique to a world-class level over the next 30 days. No more excuses. Get started today. Click the link down below, patreon.com/Bernd. I'm waiting for you inside of my online guitar academy. But for now, let me show you some more really cool, helpful exercises. So the most obvious detail with this exercise is that you're working with string skipping. So you're playing on the G string and the E string, and you do not want to touch the B string in between. So the first challenge is avoiding any kind of unwanted noise, because when you try this for the first time, you might end up touching the B string or the other strings as you're transitioning. Or maybe you're grazing the B string while you're transitioning with your picking hand. So definitely make sure not to generate any unwanted noise here. Here's a bad example for you. So you do not want it to sound like this. You want to sound like that whenever you're practicing this exercise. Then once again, it's a great workout for your fretting hand and especially for your pinky finger, because you need it for this classic pentatonic pattern, and you want to avoid a pinky finger that bends away once again or that curls like this. So always when I'm playing the note with my pinky finger here on the 11th fret E flat, right after playing it, I want it to hover here so that I'm close to the actual note I have to play. And then here's the tricky part. I'm switching up the pattern so that it's focused around my ring finger, playing D on the 10th fret on the high E string. And right here, when I'm playing this pattern, my pinky finger really wants to bend away because I don't really need it anymore. So this is where I really have to focus on keeping my pinky close to the neck, because I don't want it to look like this. So I don't want all this fretting hand movement. I don't want my pinky curled like this or bending away like this. This is what you want. So my pinky finger is remaining as close to the fretboard as possible. It can always be closer, of course. But this exercise is great for your string skipping and picking control, as well as for your fretting hand control. But please make sure to practice it correctly. It will not benefit you at all. You're completely throwing away your time if you're not looking closely at your fretting hand and also listening closely to any unwanted noise and analyzing where it's coming from and what you can do to get rid of it. And one last thing that's very important about this specific exercise is making sure to play this in time, because with the string skipping in there, a lot of guitar players tend to play this one like this. So they have kind of a slight shuffle feel to it when they're practicing, and there's nothing wrong with playing licks in a swing feeling or shuffle feel. But since this is a technical exercise, we really want to focus on getting straight 16th notes when we play this, which is quite hard due to the string skipping. So much harder than it looks. Make sure to practice this one to a metronome and to really focus on nailing those 16th notes in time. By the way, all of the exercises I'm showing you today in this video are part of the new effective practice package on Patreon. In case you didn't know, I always make these packages every single week for my student community over there, and I include play-along videos at very slow and also fast tempos to challenge you, so that you can practice together with me and mimic the guitar technique and all the details you see on screen. I also export backing tracks with and without my guitar, so that you can practice at your own pace. And I also program the bass and drums for you so that it sounds a bit more pleasing. I make detailed guitar profiles, and of course you can also download a PDF tab sheet with all the details and the notation. So get this week's practice package by clicking the link down below, patreon.com/Bernd, and join us over there. But now let's check out the next exercise. So this one's a really cool practical legato pattern in the A harmonic minor scale. Sounds really awesome. Really cool pattern that I just move up a whole tone, so in the next scale position. This one is great because there's quite some stretching involved. I think this is gonna be a tricky phrase for most people, where you have to play E, F, and G sharp, so on the 5th, 6th and 9th fret here on the B string. If your fretting hand technique looks like this, so your thumb position is kind of random, your thumb is sticking out over the neck or maybe positioned here or I don't know where, it will be absolutely impossible unless you have huge hands to play this phrase, because when I position my thumb like this, I can stretch farther than the 8th fret right here. But as you know, as soon as I move it down behind my middle finger, I can stretch very, very far. If my life would depend on it, I could probably stretch from the 5th to the 12th fret, but I don't want to do this live on stage. But still, I can stretch really, really far, and this phrase is actually no problem with that kind of thumb position. So when you're practicing this legato phrase and you feel like you can't really stretch that far or your finger technique sounds sloppy, please always remember that your thumb position is extremely important when it comes to all that. Now for the picking pattern, what I found what works best is actually starting this with a downstroke, followed by 2 upstrokes, then a downstroke and upstroke at the end. Of course, picking patterns are kind of subjective, so feel free to try anything else, but that's the one where I feel like I'm in control of the timing and the note spacing, and I can play it pretty fast and in time. So this one is really, really tricky, especially when you play it quite fast. This is easily my favorite finger technique workout at the moment, because the stretching makes it quite hard and the hammer-on pull-off pattern is kind of unusual because it's quite practical and you're not just playing it up and down. I feel like most legato workouts and exercises are way too linear like this, just playing stuff up or down. So by including this pattern in your practice routine, you work on your creative phrasing, because when you practice awesome patterns like this, it will definitely creep into your improvised takes and guitar solos over time. Of course, it's a great finger technique, hammer-on and pull-off workout, so it will greatly help you with getting rid of string noise and cleaning up your fretting hand technique as fast as possible. But I have one more awesome workout for you. Check out the last one. This one's a really cool picking and fretting hand workout as well, but this time it's more of a riff than a lick. You're playing a scale phrase down here. And it's really, really tricky concerning the picking pattern, because you have to jump between the E and A string in a really uncomfortable way. The first phrase is okay, you're playing 3 16th notes on the A string and 1 16th note A on the 5th fret on the low E string, with an upstroke actually, but then you have to play B right here on the 2nd fret on the A string, and it's kind of sandwiched between 2 notes on the low E string. And this is really, really uncomfortable to play, especially when you speed it up. So this will really, really help with cleaning up your string transitions. Because in this register it's quite easy to spot and hear unwanted noise. So you definitely don't want it to sound like this. You want this kind of sound. And once again, since this one is based in the lower register, it's gonna be a little bit tricky for you to stretch. Remember the thumb placement once again, it really helps if it's behind your middle finger, especially in the lower section of the fretboard. And then you're moving the pattern up to the 5th fret, or to the scale position around the 5th to the 8th fret, I should say. The pattern remains the same, and you have to stretch once again from the 8th to the 4th fret, so it's not getting easier, although you're moving up on the fretboard. We'll play it a bit more slowly. So you once again have this note, which is D this time, on the A string that is sandwiched between 2 notes on the low E string, C on the 8th fret this time. So if you're into rock and metal riffing, this is the perfect exercise for you, because it will help you with cleaning up your picking and fretting hand technique in the lower register on the instrument, which is something lead guitar players especially don't practice enough. It's great for your hand synchronization, because you're playing a different note on every single picking stroke, and there are some really uncomfortable string transitions in there. And since it's more of a riff-based workout, this one is also really, really great for your timing. You definitely don't want to rush these 16th notes, which is what most guitar players will end up doing when they try this this for the first time. Alright my friends, those are 4 really awesome and helpful exercises to practice when you don't have that much time to work on your guitar skills every single day. To get started right now, download the brand new practice package on patreon.com/burned. That's my online guitar academy, and the link is down below in the description and in the first comment. When you join over there, you get access to all of my premium guitar courses. Almost all of them come with 30-day practice plans that tell you exactly what to do to take your guitar technique to a world-class level in the shortest amount of time possible. So if you're serious about this, it's an absolute no-brainer. Join our guitar community on Patreon today with the link down below. I can't wait to welcome you over there. Until then, have an amazing day. Greetings from the island. Bye bye.